From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, January 29th, 2024. We'll start off looking at the satellite picture here. Big area of low pressure spinning across the Pacific, pumping a lot of moisture into the Pacific Northwest, parts of British Columbia. Some of that starting to spill into parts of the Peace River, the Grand Prairie area, a little bit of a light shower activity ongoing there this morning, but an area of high pressure is going to keep us on the quiet side through the majority of the week. The best chance for any accumulating precipitation, whether it be snow or rain, is going to be coming over the weekend into early next week in that days 7 to 10 time frame. Looking at the radar here again, early Monday morning, some light shower activity across the Grand Prairie, Peace River area, and then the same thing as you make your way off to the east, some showers exiting southern Manitoba, moving on into southern Ontario. Temperatures across the region here, generally mild compared to average. You could find some colder spots there, kind of near the Alberta-Saskatchewan border, but a lot of folks very near freezing here before the sun even starts coming up on Monday morning. The last 7 days of precipitation, as expected, quiet across the region, very dry, very light precipitation across parts of southern Manitoba into eastern portions of Saskatchewan, but by and large, a dry, quiet week across the prairie, and that is what is in store here over the next 5 days or so. We'll look at the next 7 days overall, kind of smoothed out here, the European ensemble model. Again, best chance for precipitation over the next 7 to 10 days is going to be found across western portions of the prairie. And again, the best chance for noticeable, impactful precipitation is in the back half of the next 10 days. So generally quiet over the next 5 days, some chances for precipitation increasing in days 5 to 10, with those chances being highest in western portions of the prairie. Now, this is verbatim the European model, the forecast precipitation over the next 7 days, so it does take us through the weekend when some of that snow starts to pop up on the forecast models here across parts of southern Alberta, central and southern Saskatchewan, and then eventually across the rest of the prairie. But again, kind of, don't take this as fact. This is what the model's got here 6 days out. But we'll talk about how, even though it's way out there, even though there's quite a bit going on, my confidence in at least some light snow is pretty high as we get into the weekend and early next week. Now, here's what we've got as we get the week started. Huge ridge of high pressure centered right over the prairie. You can see the trough over the Pacific. The tighter these lines are packed together, the stronger the jet stream winds. So those winds come screaming around the base of that trough, delivering a lot of moisture here to Pacific Northwest out of British Columbia. And then those strong jet stream winds come up over the top of the ridge. So this is a dry pattern for us. We've seen some of that light shower activity here coming around the east side of that ridge here across parts of southern Ontario into southern Manitoba. As we animate this, though, the ridge, it holds on through much of the week. It's what helps kind of take this low across the Pacific and force it south. So that's what's going to kind of block a more impactful storm track across the region, sending it across the southern U.S. That's been the theme over the last 3 to 4 weeks. It's the second push that comes in. Here's the first one, and then the second one here that, as I kind of pause this, let me go ahead and do that for you here. This is the first wave. It sneaks off to the south thanks to the, anomalous ridge of high pressure centered over Canada. This is as we head into the late part of the work week. Right here, as these kind of waves, they're not splitting here, but this is where we get into this disorganized chance for, a piece of this trough to break off and bring a little light snow into the prairie over the back half of the weekend and early next week. And then as we head into the early and middle part of next week with this trough off the Pacific, we could certainly see more in the way of some, rising motion in the atmosphere, giving us some opportunities for some precipitation across the region. Very little in the way of specifics available at this point, but this kind of opens the door for some precipitation across the region again, which we really haven't seen much of over the last week or two. Now, here are the jet stream winds that accompany all this. Again, the very strong winds coming around the base of the trough, much weaker winds here coming over the top of the ridge. That ridge holds on for much of the week. This is what we've got here. This is Tuesday into Wednesday. This now takes us into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and now getting into Sunday and Monday. This is the picture early next week. The strongest jet stream winds certainly off to the south across, portions of the southwest U.S., northern Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico, the southern and southeastern parts of the U.S. This will be the active corridor, but as we get into this period here, the ridge across Canada starts to break down, and we could certainly start to see some of these little short waves making their way into the region. It doesn't take much to kick off at least a little bit of light snow this time of year. So This is what we've got verbatim from the European model, your precipitation forecast. Again, quiet to start the week off. Here's your Monday. This is your Tuesday. This is your Wednesday. Now getting into Wednesday night, Thursday. We're now in the month of February. February 2nd now, Friday. Getting into Saturday, you see much of the upper level energy and the precipitation making its way across the southwestern, eventually the southern United States. This is getting into Saturday. Now Sunday, now you're starting to see some of this precipitation beginning to develop across the prairie as we get into, late Saturday night, into Sunday, getting into Monday, early next week. Those chances for some light precipitation here, you go Wednesday into Thursday of next week, continue. So certainly low confidence in the specifics here, but as I look at both the European and the GFS model, remarkable agreement between both models with the chance for some light precipitation, some of these more subtle disturbances working back into the prairie over the back half of the weekend into early next week. So again, not, sounding the alarms for a significant winter storm, certainly not giving you specific snow totals here, but as we go through a dry week, know that over the weekend into early next week, that chance for some light snow going to start to increase once again across the prairie. Now temperatures, of course, very mild as we get the week started here. I'll animate your temperature forecast over the next 14 days or so. You see the warmer anomalies begin to shrink here as that ridge breaks down. Again, it is very strong right now, but it is not going to be a permanent feature over the next 2 to 3 weeks. It does start to weaken as we get into the weekend early next week, kind of coinciding with that slow increase for the chance of some light snow. Look for those temperatures to start to return back to, a little bit closer to where they should be late January into early February. So what does that look like here, Calgary? Your high temperatures close to 10 degrees over the next 5 to 6 days, all the way through the beginning of the weekend. Look at those highs, though, back below freezing as we get into next week. Very similar look here in Edmonton, Saskatoon, Regina, and Winnipeg. So as promised, of course, winter not done with the region. I don't have a snowstorm to promise you, and I'm certainly not advertising another Arctic blast, at least not at this point, but enjoy the warmth if you're into it this week, because next week probably going to look a bit different across the Canadian prairie, certainly a bit colder, with chances for some snow returning to the region. Have a wonderful week. I will talk to you again next Monday morning.